oh my gosh, is it happening? Like it's happening now? And you're like, yes, this is happening. And I was like, I don't have my nails done. Like, I just want to be able to order my Domino's 555 deal and eat it by myself with no judgment. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and to our love story last week. Well, I guess I'm Nina Davalori. This is my fiance. Ryan, you've been following us. If you have not watched this entire series, please watch it from the beginning up until now, otherwise you won't understand anything. Well, I guess you won't understand this one because it's like proposal stuff, but it'll be more entertaining, I assure you. You don't want to miss it. But last week we left off by telling you about the big incident, taking you to the emergency room, talking through how we handled that situation. And we finally are now at the fun part of the proposal story, which I'm really excited to tell you about because I think we can pick up when we decided to get married, because that was like the next part of our relationship. I feel like we had navigated so much of the heavy stuff constantly that like it finally lightened, maybe 2 years ago?
That we decided to get married?
Yeah.
I guess so. I mean, you have a better memory of this. I remember being there.
You remember being the part of the conversation?
I remember being part of the conversation. I remember us being there. I remember where it happened.
Okay. We had decided to like consciously move in together, and then I was always like, if we don't live together first, like that's like a piece that I need to be able to get to the yes point.
Yeah, because that was a big risk, right?
I didn't feel like it was a risk.
I think you were the risky one.
I was risky?
Yeah, for the move-in.
Oh, yeah. Like you didn't know what it was going to be like to live with me?
Yeah. Like you knew I was going to be fine.
Yeah.
To live with.
My biggest fear in like moving in together was honestly, I was like,
Domino's.
I just want to be able to order my Domino's 555 deal and eat it by myself with no judgment. And I don't need an audience for that. I don't want an audience for that. And so I was like, I'm not going to be able to do that if I move in and live with a boy.
What we learn?
That I can. Without you there. I feel like the weekends you leave, I'm like, oh yeah, it's Domino's. We can't.
That's why you're so happy.
Yes, and I throw away the evidence.
Wow.
I know.
I
know, you're learning something new about me every day.
I really do.
I'm the messy one. I'm gonna just be honest, for sure.
You should be honest.
Anyway, so the point of when we decided to get married, we moved in, we did all of that, but I think we had this conversation maybe right before we moved in together, actually.
About whether we were gonna get married.
Yeah, because I remember we were at Quawa House, which is one of like our all-time favorite coffee places. Mm-hmm. It's originally like their flagship is in Brooklyn, and they now opened one in West Village, which like we were so excited when that happened. But we were there. This was probably like our, I don't know, however many time there. And we were sitting at the coffee bar, and their process is very elaborate. And we were talking about getting married.
Yeah. I think we were starting to talk about what the wedding would look like, and I don't know. I mean, like whether we wanted to do it in the first place. I think it was the first time we were explicit about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like saying like, are we gonna get married? Should we get married? Do we want to get married? I just remember sitting there and then being like, yeah, I would want to marry you.
Yes, I remember that.
Do you remember that?
I remember that, yeah.
And you were just like, I would want to marry you too.
Yeah.
I think that's how it went down.
I think that's how it went down.
Yeah, so from there, that was kind of, I guess, what started the process.
Started the process of getting engaged.
Yeah, because that was kind of like, I felt like I had everything up until then what I needed to be able to say yes. So that was kind of the last piece of like, are we on the same page? And we were. Yeah,
for sure. It was interesting. I think you had like check boxes and milestones to hit.
Yeah.
It was like the parents had to meet. We had to move in together. We had to do this and that and whatever. I don't know. I don't think I had as many check boxes.
Yeah.
It was more just a feeling.
Yeah. I think like the last thing too was our parents meeting, and they met last Christmas actually was the first time they met. Mm-hmm. And so after we had decided to get engaged, and then we had our parents meet, because I was like, let's not do this if it's not, a real thing. I mean, it obviously was at this point, but And I said, I was like, our parents aren't going to ask to like meet each other unless they know that like we're serious, that like we're committed and we want this to happen. And so finally the way it worked out is that Ryan's parents came over for Christmas last year and met Mama D, met the whole family, which was like so nice and so easy, I would say. Like I had COVID for half of it, so I was out and
you missed the whole
I know.
half.
So like Ryan's family was just tossed into my family. How did it go?
I think it went really well. I mean, in a way it was like, I know you won't take it the wrong way, it was better that you weren't there.
Yeah.
Because I think you would have tried to control the situation in the sense where you're like, oh, you want to make sure this person's talking to that person about this thing and you want to make sure people are getting along, and it's like, it's all well-adjusted, normal adults who can get along, you know? And so it's like, instead of intervening and thinking like, I think it's easy for anyone to overthink a situation and be like, oh, there's 5 seconds of silence. Let me try to make sure that someone talks about something versus, well, I guess it's organic. It feels natural, you know? And so it never felt awkward or weird or anything like that. So it was great.
I didn't feel that either for the few days that I was able to partake in all of it. But yeah, so that was just a really lovely memory. And that was kind of like, all right, let's actually go ring shopping together, which I told you all that whole story. So like, then we went ring shopping together because I was like, I'm not gonna let myself look until like, this is all happening. And then we did that whole process. And then this is like purely your time to shine because I don't know what the planning process was. Like, I don't know. Yeah, like I don't know any of that.
It's so stressful. I mean, you have to like play it cool the whole time, you know, but at the same time, it's a lot of your friends are around the country and not all based in New York. Your one requirement was you wanted to be surprised.
Yeah.
I was like,
this is the only time in my life I will be surprised. You know the wedding's coming, you know everything else is coming, like the engagement is the one thing.
Right.
You know it's coming, but I didn't know how, when, or what, or all of that.
For sure. And there's no knock on anyone who does it differently, but I was like, I wanted it to be a whole weekend thing. I wanted friends, family, everyone to be together for that time. There's a lot of orchestration in terms of what I wanted to try to pull off, all while being a surprise. And you're really easy to sneak around on, surprisingly. Start with your mom, make sure she was cool.
You asked her for permission?
Yeah, sort of. Not permission, because during this Christmas, Nina decided she wanted to play a game with the whole family.
Well, basically, the game was like, we all go around and answer the same question. So it was like, what's your favorite Christmas memory? What are you most excited for the upcoming year? And like, everyone had to answer. So it was like a way for everyone to like get to know each other. Like that was organic. I mean, forced by me, but it was organic.
Yes. But it worked. It was actually really cool.
It was fun.
Great. And your mom,
when we had asked, what are you most excited for next year?
She like, I don't know, she's not a loud spoken or super vocal person, but like in that moment, she like declared to this room of 12 people, it was like bursting out of her. It's like, I just want you guys to get engaged. And so I didn't feel the need to like ask for permission.
Yeah.
But I did feel like I wanted to have her involved in the process to some extent. So I asked her that weekend that your Smithsonian thing was.
Oh yeah.
I think that was in February or something like that.
Yeah.
So I asked her then. We were doing all the ring shopping around then.
Also pause. If you have not seen my Smithsonian video of like my talent dress being revealed in the Smithsonian, you should watch it because I love that video. It was a really fun moment.
You just like self-promote.
Yeah, I'm proud of that. Like, hell yeah.
You should be proud of it. You should be proud of it. It's like Michael Jordan being like, yeah, you know, just, you haven't seen me when I got inducted into the Hall of Fame, make sure you check that out.
It's a good video. I would watch it.
It's a good video. Okay. Anyway, so it was that weekend. I talked to Mina and we were planning. She wanted me to pull the date way up. I had planned to propose in June.
Which was my guess. I was like, it's probably gonna be June because I didn't want it in April. That's my birthday month. So I like didn't want anything else. Like that's already a celebration. And I was like, May is probably a little too like close. Like we're traveling so much. We had like 3 weddings in May. 3 weddings in May. So I was like, there's no way he's gonna do it at like someone else's wedding or like traveling. And so June was my guess.
talking to Mina, she was like, let's pull it up into like March. And this was like February. So it was like basically 3 weeks away. And I was like, this is way too soon. But we did land basically on the last week of March. Yeah, it was a lot of sneaking around. I changed all your friends' names in my phone to like NBA players.
That I wouldn't know.
That you wouldn't know. And so I decided that I was going to propose at our first date spot, Bar Pistolino. And I knew I wanted it to be pretty early in the day on Friday so that we could maximize the time as the surprise unfolded.
Yeah. Obviously, like, I knew it was coming, but I sort of was like, I'm not even gonna snoop, I'm not even gonna look around, I'm not even gonna like fish around for anything, because like, I so badly want to be surprised, and I've truly never been surprised in my life, like... Ever. No, I like never have. So I was like, I just want a surprise engagement. And so I also was like, I'm gonna do my part and not snoop.
Okay.
So that was layer one. And then you had to get me to the actual place. So like,
that was a whole thing.
Yeah, which I guess like I'll start telling this now, because so basically you had decided to propose at Bar Pistolino on a certain date. You organized friends, family, all of them were going to be in town for this weekend. The story that you told me, which was very well done, was that weekend, it was March 29th, you had said that some of our friends from San Francisco were going to be coming to stay with us. We were like planning the weekend together. So we had like a cooking class we were doing. We were going to see a Broadway show on Sunday that I had bought tickets for. So like, I had genuinely believed that they were coming in on that Friday and were staying with us through that Monday, basically.
And they were coming. But I put all these things in because I needed to make sure you held the weekend.
Yeah.
You didn't start like booking travel somewhere else, and that it was the whole weekend.
Right.
Because sometimes you have people come from out of town and it's like, we'll do a dinner, and then you'd say, can I, schedule something? Can I schedule a lunch on this day?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, nothing. So we had to it was a lot of coordination behind the scenes.
Yeah. So I had no reason to think that they were not coming, or this was like not that we weren't doing that this weekend. That weekend had been blocked off for so long. And then the second part was getting me to Bar Pistolino.
You did such a good job.
You did. So one of my dear friends, Ari, who's amazing, she was basically the one who pulled this one off, because you had reached out to Ari.
I pulled this off.
Yeah.
Ari
executed.
I was the director.
Yeah.
She was the actor.
Both are very important.
Yes. No, equal credit given.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, created this whole like side story. I needed to make sure that she was like dressed properly for an engagement, because photographer, videographer, things like that.
Yeah.
For the engagement. We basically said that Ari's also in a creative space, and it was, Nina, do you want to come meet my producer friend for the first time? And she's very up and coming and this and that.
Yeah, it's like she's really interested in like our story, like to work with us, like our story, like she wants to meet you, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, that's cool. Like, that sounds great. Like, yeah, of course. And so she had texted me this, basically, we'll meet her for lunch like 2:00 on Friday. Yeah. Was sort of what was set. And I was like, okay, great. Like, who's your producer friend? Like, I will never go into a meeting without having some background info, especially if it's like more business meeting. Like, I want to know what you've done. It's just like, it's not creepy or like, oh, I have to impress this person. It's just like, I think in some ways a courtesy and respect of like, like you've done these things, or like, just like tell me about how you got there. Like, I think that's interesting. Like, I don't want to walk in and be like, oh, you Lin-Manuel, like you made Hamilton. I didn't, like, not that this was high stakes, but I think that's what it feels like. Like, yeah. I just wanted to be respectful. You had basically known that I was going to Google this person. You're like, it has to be a real person because she's going to Google her. And so you'd found like a real person.
I was so good at this.
I know. And you were right, because I did Google her. That was like the name that she gave me. And I was like, okay, so I, again, thought this was very legit. Like, all of this like tracked. Like, I had plans that weekend. I was meeting with a producer. Great. Like, it's going to be a great weekend. I was super excited. And then like, I genuinely was not thrown off at all that entire week. Like, between 3 people asking me to get my nails done, like, I had a screening of Complexion Thursday night. The proposal was Friday night. And so the screening was like my first screening in New York City. So I was like really excited for that. Like,
you had an audition?
I had an audition. Like, there were so many things in my life happening that I just like
Means, get your nails done.
I didn't have time. And so it just like kept slipping aside, which like that's a whole separate story I'm gonna go into later because like that's just a whole separate thing. But yeah, so I was just never like set off by any of this. And then come that week, because I wasn't like getting my nails done, he texts Ari and he's like, can you please like make this higher stakes and tell her that you're like gonna go see a show tonight and like meet the cast backstage, like. And so Ari texts me, hey, like the producer wants us to like come to one of her shows, like Water for Elephants, which was like not actually true. And she's like, and like they, wants to introduce us to the cast backstage, which like is not unusual, like when you go with a producer. So like it's all felt very normal. And I was like, yeah, great. Like he had told her to do that. So, because he was like, she's still not getting her nails done. Like, can you make this higher stakes? And she's like, and then at one point she's like, just remember, we're going to be taking pictures. And I remember thinking like, okay, first of all, Ari's not the type of person who cares about that in general. Yeah. But like, I was like, I mean, they're going to be like full length, full body, like no one's taking pictures like close-ups of my hands. So I was like, it's kind of a weird thing to say, but like, all right, like I remember, like I will show up looking decent. So that was sort of that. And I remember getting ready that day. I woke up that morning. I had a very normal day. Like it was a beautiful day. Like it happened to be like one of those perfect weather days in March, end of March. And I'm getting ready and I'm trying to actually like repaint my nails myself before I get out the door to meet this producer. And the thought was like, I just like, I would rather be on time to meet her than be late. So I was like choosing between being on time or doing my nails myself just to like, even like remove the polish because they were just like cracked, chipped, so disgusting.
And not waking up earlier, right?
Time gets away from me. And so I was like, you know what? Like, I'm enough. Like, it's fine. Like, my nails are not going to make or break this meeting. Like, why are you laughing?
There's all these like self-help books led you to this point.
It did. This is what I've been working for about beauty standards. So I basically don't do my nails. I start walking over to Bar Pisolino. The story was that we're meeting her at Via Carota. So that was always the story. So I'm starting, and Via Carota is right across from Bar Pisolino, owned by the same people. And so I'm like, okay, this like producer is bougie. I love it. And so I get to Via Carota and I'm like, hey, like, can we put our names down? Like, there's 3 of us. And I give her my number and she sees my name pop up and she's like, oh, like your reservation is actually at Bar Pisolino. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. But like, also, who is this producer? Because like the reaction didn't seem like, oh, like you're being proposed to today. The reaction felt like, oh, this is like a big person that you're meeting and like we have a table set aside for you. Like that's what I thought it was. So I'm like, all right.
That's great.
Yeah, great. So I make my way over to Bar Pisolino and I see Ryan sitting there outside. And he's like, hey, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing here? I'm like, have you seen Ari? Not even waiting for a response. Have you seen Ari? And he's like, I don't think she's here. And then I'm like, no, she just texted me. She just texted me that she's inside. So I'm like looking inside. It's a small place. Like you can see everything from one place. So I'm looking at all the tables. I'm looking inside. She's not there. And I'm like, are you sure? Like she said she's here. He's like, no. Like, he's like, why don't you sit down? And I was like, still looking for her. And then he's like, I don't think Ari's coming. Like, why don't you sit down?
And the whole plan, the whole time, I was coming up with this with Mina. And we're like, the second she sees you, she'll know it's the proposal.
No.
So just go right into it.
No.
And it was like a full minute of convincing her.
Yeah.
I don't know what, it took, definitely a minute. It took like 30 seconds after you sat down.
Yeah, and then I'm sitting down and I'm just like, okay, like, what's going on? Like, you're just not even processing it, because I'm like so certain we're gonna meet this producer, like so certain for weeks.
Such a good job.
That this was happening. So I'm just like really thrown off, and he's telling me to sit down. I sit down, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, is it happening? Like it's happening? It's happening now? And you're like, yes, this is happening. And I was like, I don't have my nails done. Like, the one time in my life, like, you also have to understand, like, 10 years, Miss America, like, it is your job to always have your nails done, like, contractually, like, you do. So, like, that habit was always, I mean, I was doing it in high school too, but, like, that habit was always a habit. And I was like, this is the one time I have for my nails to rest between all of the gel manicures that I've gotten, because it's not going to happen. Earliest it would be is April, even though I told him not birthday month, but like maybe he'll do it that month. So like, this is the last week I have to not do gels on my, like, to get my nails done. And so I was like, whatever about it. And then like I get there and I realize it's happening, and it's the first words out of my mouth. And I was just like, I can't believe this is the one time in my life that I don't have my nails done. Like, the one time is probably the most important time. And I didn't. And then like I'm saying, and you can like see this on my face, that I'm just like, so you can tell that I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, you knew I was gonna be upset about this. So like, I just remember you saying, and I was like, really, it's happening? It's happening even after the whole nails thing? And you're like, yes, it's happening. Don't worry about your nails. I have an emergency manicure scheduled for you after this. Try and listen.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
And then I went into it all. I mean,
yeah.
I definitely had like a whole...
I mean, of course I blacked out. Like, I don't know what I remember you said beautiful, nice things. And I remember like snippets of it for sure. But like, it's just so much happening in your head.
For sure. Yeah. I just went so slow. I remember just like talking very slowly.
Yeah. Which was nice, because I was like, you know, it's like you're sitting there and I'm trying to pay attention to you, but I'm also realizing all these people are around us.
Yeah.
Like, everyone is out, because it was just like the first beautiful day that people were sitting outside. And so everyone's around us. I'm noticing that. Then I notice like the photographer, and I'm like, just like putting all the pieces together in my head.
There's so much anxiety that goes into it. It's so weird. I had my best friend come into town too, and we got drinks right before at Bar Pasolino to hold the seat, because they don't make exceptions for reservations, even for proposals.
Yeah.
But we were holding the seat, having drinks, and it's like, why? He's not like, why are you nervous? But I'm like, basically saying like, I don't know why I'm so nervous. And yeah, and he's the same thing. He's like, yeah, you know she's gonna say yes, you know. So you just like, you know, you're gonna talk to this person for the rest of your life, but it just feels like such a special moment, an important moment. I remember that day. I mean, I had the whole day. I came up with some excuse about what I was doing, I think. I remember I went to a stationery store because I was like, I want to like take notes. I want to handwrite what I want to say, basically. And I had prepared that beforehand, but I wanted to write it down and go off of that. Wrote it all down, lost it. And then like...
Had to write it again. Like 5 minutes before you came. Then you say all these beautiful things, then you have me stand up, and I realize you're gonna do it, and like it's right in front of basically it's like Bar Pasolino, and you'll see like the Freedom Tower, which is like one of my favorite. It's like also the picture that we gave to each other. It's the exact shot of the same painting that we gave to each other like our first Christmas. And so like it's basically us, like insert us into the painting is like what it was, which I think is what you visioned. And like it was just perfect. Like I loved that. That's like my favorite picture ever. You got down on one knee, and like everyone's there. Everyone's like, cameras are out, like, cause and like you asked me to marry you. And I was like, yes, of course I will. And then I was like hysterical, crying, all of the things, of course. And then immediately after, we sit back down, I say yes. And then like, it's weird because you're just like, okay, now what? Like, what do you do now? And then my mom and sister were there the whole time. I just like they were hiding. And so immediately I saw my mom and sister afterwards. And then basically you were like, okay, we have like a photo session.
Emergency
Yeah,
manicure.
but before that, you have like your emergency manicure. So immediately, like, it's literally the nail place was like next door. And I get there and they're like, okay, pick a color. And I'm just like, how do I pick a color? Like there's so much happening in your head that you're just like, oh, I have to pick a color for my nails after I just got engaged. Like, you're dreaming about this moment or like thinking about this moment for so long. And then like, it was just, I was like, I don't know, like pink. And so I like randomly chose a color. We did that. You waited with me at the nail salon, and then we did our photo shoot in West Village.
Silence.
Yeah, they were also like, you're being too loud, because I was like screaming. And then my sister was like, F that. Like, and so, yeah, then we did our photo session, and then you had said, okay, we have like downtime before we have dinner tonight. And so, we came back to our apartment, and then I walked in, and then I feel like I've shared this video, but like your entire family, immediate family was there, my immediate family was there, and they surprised us. And like, that was a special moment. That was like my favorite memory of all of it, just like immediately walking into them. And then we had like a couple hours together here and like did pictures, and I just loved that it was here because it was like the home that we built, you know, together. So I love that. And then we immediately, we went to dinner at like one of our favorite restaurants. And then afterwards he was like, oh, we're going to an after part, or like, we'll just go to like the bar next door, for like a couple drinks. Like, everyone was like, obviously the young kids, like siblings. And it was the first time our siblings were meeting. So like, that was so joyful for me. And then we get to the next bar, and like all my college friends are there, and like all our close friends are there, and they surprise us there. And that was so fun. We were out until like 2 a.m. that night. That was like the litty night. Like, everyone got lit that night. And like, it was so fun just like being with everyone together, even when you're not drinking, like truly, like it was just, you're so high off of life, I guess, that like, it was just really fun to be there and watch and like hang out with everyone. That night, you're like, I can't keep any more secrets. We basically had like a rooftop party the next day, and then dinner again. So basically I woke up the next morning, and then we had like drinks and like appetizers, hors d'oeuvres, basically at Bar Hugo, the rooftop at Bar Hugo, with like our friends and family. So like extended friends and extended family came in for that event that Saturday, which was again beautiful. And then after that, we went to Emily's, which is like one of my favorite pizza places ever. It's my favorite pizza in New York. I want Detroit style pizza in New York. Like, that's just how I want it. And we went there and did like a whole dinner with like all of our friends and family again, there as well. So like, that was just like the perfect ending, to all of it. Like, it really was like, I went to bed with a happy heart and happy tummy, and like, they have these amazing skillet brownies that like come out in a warm skillet with ice cream on top, and like, that's just all I wanted everyone to have. I was like, everyone needs to try this skillet, and like, everyone did, and everyone was so happy. And like, yes, obviously we love each other, and that was great too, but like the skillet,
focus on the important things,
was the highlight.
Yes. The highlight of the weekend?
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so that was like the full weekend, essentially. Like, we had all of these full events, and like exhausted by the end of it, I think. Like, do you have a favorite memory throughout the weekend?
I think it's any of the surprises.
Yeah.
Or just like walking into the room.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's someone that mentioned to me, he's like, you walk in and it's like the home team advantage. Like, you just walking in and it's like you're running out on the field at the home game, you know, and that's what it feels like, and everyone's cheering for you and everyone's excited. So walking into the apartment, walking into the bar, Hugo. You know, walking into the Bar Hugo celebration, you know, like, everything is just like, all right, like, you just know everyone's in there rooting for you. Yeah. You know?
Totally. And I just like, I never thought I'd be that girl who walked in and was like, hey, like, never thought that. Like, I don't like attention, which I understand is weird, but I hate like attention in real life. I like being on stage and performing, but like, it makes me really uncomfortable when people watch me. And like, that just felt it's such a safe space with like the people you love that you're just like can finally like let loose and be surprised and enjoy like just what's happening in your life, which I'd never really had that feeling before. So yeah, that was really special. And I think the last memory for me that really stands out is, so that Saturday morning, we got engaged Friday night. We woke up Saturday morning and like, I was just like screaming like Monica from Friends, like, I'm engaged, I'm engaged.
Actually stood up on, we have a bench right
Yeah,
there.
we have a bench and I stood up on the bench and was like screaming it. I was wearing a Versace dress that my dad had bought me. It was on sale for like $250, like something really cheap. And like I was,
that is
cheap. For Versace, that's cheap. And like, I found it at the outlets. Like I love a good deal. Like I hunted for that dress. And it was like, I was thinking about wearing it that day to the, to Bar Hugo, because I was like, oh, you know, that'll be like a piece of, hopefully like, you know, it'll feel like my dad's with me that day. It felt like very sentimental. And so I was like putting it on because I hadn't worn it in years. And it's white, it happens to be white. And I remember like trying it on and then like screaming, I'm engaged. And then you started playing Helpless from Hamilton, the song that she's like, I do. And I was just like screaming, singing that at the top of my lungs. And we were dancing in the apartment and like danced through the whole song. And that was like my favorite. You were in your underwear.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Just running around the apartment.
Just running around. It was my favorite memory that whole weekend. Like that was the best. That's kind of how it all went down, I would say. That's the whole proposal story, ins and outs, I think, of all the things that we went through, planning everything. And I think that's like concludes our love story. I feel like this is our last video.
Concludes the series.
Yeah, concludes the series of like up until the proposal.
Not the end of our love story.
Well, yeah, you're right. Okay. It's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. Yeah, so I think that's like the full story that we wanted to share and, you know, have for ourselves too. So thank you all so much for watching and like wanting to get to know us and be a part of this journey as we go into planning our wedding at this moment in time. Like we still have no date and no venue. So you're going to be on the journey in terms of where that ends up, I suppose. And yeah, it just means a lot. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on my channel next time. Maybe Ryan will be back. I'm sure he will at some point. I think you guys will want him back at some point, maybe Q&A, but until then, I don't know.
Hot seat?
I don't know what we're gonna do. That's all we got. Bye.
Bye.
Good?
Good.
High five?
Okay.